At the University of Hertfordshire, British researchers are mounting an experiment to put extrasensory detection to the test. They've gathered grisly relics from a police black museum and have invited psychics to describe the crimes in which they were used. 2 observers have been called in to help psychologist Dr Richard Wiseman assess the results. They're Donald West, retired professor of criminology at Cambridge University, and journalist Roy Stemmen of Psychic News. They'll watch from behind a two-way mirror.
The test today is looking at people who claim to be psychic. They claim to be able to handle objects that are connected with a crime and tell us psychically about that crime. And today what we're doing is comparing how well they do on the test versus a group of people that don't claim that ability. And today, that's the students.
Exhibit A is a shoe worn by a woman murdered in 1899. Her body lay in a secret grave for 4 years. Her killer was in the army and was hanged in 1901. Exhibit B is a bullet which killed a policeman in the 1920s. It was one of 3 fired into his head by 2 attackers. They too were hanged. A 70-year-old woman wore Exhibit C. The scarf was used to strangle her during a burglary. The killer was a milkman. First on are the psychics. Chris Robinson's technique is to dream about the objects in advance.
The dreams that I had to do with item A were to do with the woman who was murdered, and I had an area around Tottenham Court Road in London. I thought she had been shot. I was expecting to see a gun.
Going to the object B. It's very strange because when I've been thinking about tuning into the objects with the item B, I felt a brick wall. I felt something there which was undisclosed, or something that's been not revealed. All I got was a brick wall. Whether this is for not me to see or whether it is something still undisclosed, but something there that has not been unrevealed. And I just heard a loud bang.
Yeah, a feeling of helplessness and abuse and extreme rage. So I feel very much like a person that had that sort of object actually sort of suffered a very violent death, something to do with the sort of neck sort of area. But it was this sort of feeling, you feel like, then of helplessness and blind panic, rage, anger, fear.
Then it's the turn of the students.
A robbery of some sort.
Seems worn from earth, probably being left for quite a time in undergrowth or something, in some sort of forest area.
I think this is going to be worn by an old woman who's no doubt dead.
That's what we I'm expecting the magazine. Is it a bullet? Don't know.
After the oral test, the written paper. In detailed questionnaires, psychics and students must now match the facts of each crime to the objects. As it turned out, the students did better than they thought.
Well, both the psychics and the students could have scored a maximum of 54. In fact, the psychics scored 19 and the students scored 22.
These cases are impressive but far from typical. The police will tell you that not only do the psychics' failures far outnumber their successes, but they often hamper detection. Yet, here's one case which impresses even this hardened skeptic.
In Watseka, Illinois, Vic Carho has never forgotten Greta Alexander. When 11-year-old Larry Dean Cotter was washed away in the icy Iroquois River in 1980, Greta led Carho to his body by long-distance phone.
The minute he said to me, I have a missing child, 11-year-old, that we think is drowned, immediately you become that person. You rise to the occasion. And so from that moment on, I was with Larry Dean. You feel what he felt. You feel like you're having such a good time and laughing. And the next thing you know, you step back and you're going under the water. And the next thing you know is you're turning and rolling and turning and rolling. And the current is so strong and you can't get out because it's like the roof over your head and you can't get out, which was the ice.
Credit was about 130 miles from where we were at the Watsika. And so she began to describe the landscape and things that was up there. And I said, well, now wait just a minute. I need to get on the scene so I can pass this message on, and we'll figure out some way to communicate with you when I get there.
They had a mobile phone, and they were at the scene of where he had gone under the water. I then described to them the muddy bank and the fact that there was like a rail tie and the area which they were in, and they saw everything as they were at the phone. So I knew then that I was right, and once I get that feeling I'm right, then I can really go with it. And then you hear, and you hear the boats and the motors, and you hear them cutting the ice, and you hear those things just as Larry Dean would have heard. And so you see pictures, and it's like watching television, and you hear it just as though you would hear it in your mind's eye.
Soon after I had established communication with her, she told me to face the water. And so I did face the water. Now she said, turn to your right. And I turned to my right. She says, now walk straight ahead. Well, I said, I can't walk. I've not got a long string. She said, have someone walk for you. So I got this fire chief from Decatur, and he was walking straight ahead. And she told me when he steps across or falls over a little pile of brush, stop him and have him face the water. And so when he stepped over, and sure enough, he came to this and he stepped over it, and I hollered, stop, now face the water. And she said, you're looking right at me, see my hand. And they actually saw the boy's hand, and they saw shadows, and this is how we located them, and they called us to get the boy's body.
After they found Larry Dean, I felt peace. I felt that the job was well done, and that the relief of the parents of having their son being able to be brought home, the not knowing, the horrendous pain that they were going through. Not that they wouldn't suffer again from the loss, but that it had been completed.